I think no matter how we start, it's going to be awkward.
Always. Hi.
Welcome.
To Manny versus Mommy.
All right, so 3 things. You ready? I'm excited for this topic.
Go.
So I'm going to say the topic, your first childhood memory, and you can only use 3 words or short phrases to describe it. First childhood memory.
First childhood memory.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. This is so hard to do on the spot. You've already thought of yours. I'm trying to think how to phrase it because I know the one that pops into my mind immediately. Corey Kissy Face, 3 years old, doghouse.
Mine would be Alf, slippers, nightmare.
That's great. That's great.
Do you want to do our first topic today, or do you want me to?
You can.
Okay.
We do both.
So I thought I would do something that we don't agree on.
Super.
Well,
Great
are you
place
ready for
to
this?
start. I guess. Ready as I'll ever be.
Individuality versus generalities.
Go.
So yesterday, 2 days ago, you were talking about an article, and I immediately shut you down because
Because it was a gender-specific issue
a gender, yeah.
based on the article.
And so,
Which I don't agree is a gender-specific issue in general, but the article swayed it one way versus the other.
and I immediately was like, nope, I'm out.
Do you feel that that's the case? So, to be fair, the backstory behind it a little bit, and we didn't get into the article at all. I was like, fine, I won't share it with you. I don't care. You're not going to read it and have a conversation with me
I'm
about
leaving.
it.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm going to work. See ya. I'm out. Because we tried to have a conversation about it briefly, and then I was like,
And then I just shut it down. Yeah.
yeah, you completely shut it down. And I wonder, so this article specifically said men XYZ. Would the same be true if it was women XYZ?
Would I feel as passionate about it, or would I turn it out? Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
If I said, so I found this article, how women XYZ and blah, 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 and I feel like I blah, 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 you really would have still been like,
Is the tone,
I don't care.
I think a part of the problem I had was the tone was really negative, or from what I was getting, the message was going to be a negative one. So if it was like XYZ women and it's a negative tone, I'm done. I'm out. Because everyone is so different. But that's my focus, is always individuality. I don't like labels, I don't like...
But do you want
saying you're this
individuals
way.
to improve?
Yeah.
So how do individuals improve if they're not treated as part of a greater whole?
Why would you need to put an individual in that greater whole to force them to improve?
I'm not asking to force them to improve. I'm just saying, like, if
That's-
you don't know it's an issue for you as an individual, if you can't relate with it in some way based on other people's individual experiences, because to be fair, you did not read the article.
No.
Multiple examples were given of individual situations. Here's what happened to me. Here's what happened to me. Here's what happened to me. And I get it. The overall tone of the article was, based on these individual situations, here's the general trend that we're seeing, which is a general trend. Because you have to have both. You have to have both, in my opinion.
See, and I don't, because if I want to find a general trend against something, I can find enough individual stories to force that issue and be like, well, this is just how it is.
Are you a statistician? Like, how do statisticians do their jobs if they can't pull enough data to extrapolate data based on enough individual stories?
So did the article say, and again, I didn't read the article, and I probably should have before
It was
this.
not a study if that's what you're trying to
Exactly.
apply.
So a study is a different than, this is my opinion,
So
and I'm
everything
going to
has
say
to be
it's true.
study, not based on opinion. Why can I as a journalist not write my opinion?
You can write your opinion, I just don't want to read it.
Sorry, journalists. Sorry, Kent's not going to care.
I
Which is so funny because in your world, in your social media experience and things, what are you posting? Is it data?
Mm-hmm.
Is it studies? It's not ever articles based on people's experience as a psychologist because they've been doing it a very long time.
Yeah, I'll post those and I'll share those if they have statistics and studies to back it up. Not this is just my thoughts.
Okay.
If you're gonna make a claim that a gender is this way or a subgroup is this way, I want to see studies and claims and facts, not I don't want to read your opinion about that. Because I can point out plenty of women in my life that fit the statistic that you were, or this article that you were saying.
Was for men. And I don't disagree that it's for men only. I see your point though. It's like, okay, show me the data that says that it's men more than women.
But I'm fact and data driven as well.
Anytime you bring gender into it though, you're like, shut up, I don't want to talk about it. Because now we're talking about a gender or a color or a sexual orientation or whatever.
Well, and I think it's different. I think gender's acceptable, but you can't say this race is this way or this religion is this way.
I think it's getting less so with gender though too. I really do.
I don't know.
But here's the reality though, when it comes down to it, men or women are different.
That's true.
I mean, there's always going to be that component. So I don't know. I don't know how it all feeds in. You and I definitely go toe to toe on this though.
Head-to-head. Yeah. The issue I really have with it is making the issue more of a gender issue than a behavioral issue.
And I agree with that. I really do.
So, not too long ago on Facebook, in a group that we're both in, a girl posted saying, all men are this way. And I was like, I'm sorry.
Back it up a little bit though, because some explanation is needed there. The issue was, this gentleman offered help to a woman. Because you and I are going to have very different perspectives on this. You are 6'4", I am 5'2". You are a man, I am a woman. So the situation was at Costco, a gentleman walked up and very kindly and very timidly, based on the post that was shared, said, I'd love to help you with your stuff, loading it up. I don't want to cross that boundary. I don't know if it's appropriate. And I've had a partner who was like that. My kid's dad was very much that way. I want to help you. I want to be involved. I don't want to freak you out. And that was kind of the tone of it. Yeah. And it was like, thank you for their being good people. I didn't actually want his help. I wasn't necessarily freaked out about it. My husband was coming and I told him as much, and he said, I just don't ever want to cross that line. And they moved along. And immediately came the comment that you're referencing.
Yeah. And I agree. And as a 6'4" bigger guy, I refuse to help people because I am looked at and I'm made to feel like I'm going to hurt them. Do I have any desire to hurt you?
It's not the point, but there's that perception, which is true for anyone who has skin that's a different color, and especially lives in Utah. I feel like that's part of an issue of, I don't want to be scary to you. I have a friend who went to the gym and wasn't in the right clothes or something, and they thought he was like a freak. Like, what are you doing here, trying to scope everybody out? Like, what's your deal? And it was a serious issue for him as an individual, right? That doesn't mean across the board that racism is still an issue. There was this one individual at a gym locally who made it an issue for him. And so I recognize that as an individual problem without making it seem like it's a issue across the board.
So I think we come to an agreement on that term. But I think that, at least for me, I was raised, you're always supposed to be helpful and polite, you hold doors open, you do things like that. And then when I got to about 18, 19, it was the complete opposite. You stay away from everyone, you don't help out, you don't do any of these things. So it's a complete flip-flop.
What changed?
Part of it was going on an LDS mission. You want to Texas. And them saying you don't stay around women, you don't, as part of that mission culture.
Like
a safety net. No
you?
Accusations will be made.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it is we are made to feel, or at least I am made to feel, as a man, because I have a penis, that I am going to attack somebody. And I need to be super, super careful to give them extra space when...
And see, it's really easy for me as a woman to go, come on, that's not how I feel about men. That's not how I feel about people.
Some women do. So how do we do that? How do we deal with that?
Right, and so it's kind of this circle of, well, you're made to feel that way, right? Does that mean that people feel that way about you? Not necessarily, right? But it's your own protection kicking in, and it's the same way the other way. Like, it's a overall reaching thing versus an individual thing.
But I think it's a mixed message that we're sending children, that you need to be this way because you need to be a gentleman, you need to help out. Oh wait, no, you need to stay away and keep your distance. So I will flat out refuse to help people in stores because I don't want to become a
Which
claim
is so
against something
interesting
happening.
to me.
Because I'm a very helpful person. My initial
Yeah.
reaction is to go help, but I fear
And
that
yet you
something's going to
don't
happen.
because of the fear.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Strictly
is that
because
fear,
I'm a male.
is that fear real? Have you experienced it personally, or is that an overreaching
No, I've definitely
thing
experienced that.
How so?
There's a lot of subtle ways. If I have one of your kids with me going to the store, people don't look twice at me. If I go to the store myself and I follow behind a lady, let's say we're both parked in the parking lot and I start following in, I see that she's antsy. I see that she gets, so I have to wait until she's far enough away before I can even proceed and walk in. Whereas my initial reaction is, I'm not even paying attention to you because I've got a million things I need to do.
So what would happen if you proceeded that way and just moved on like it was no big deal versus I am fully aware that she's uncomfortable? Because I think that's the conversation we're having these days is men, you need to be aware that you're making her uncomfortable versus why are you assuming that she's uncomfortable? Don't be weird.
Because I'm told
Do you
I'm
know
a
what I
man
mean?
and I'm going to attack women
Wait, told by whom?
by popular culture.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So if you're talking about popular culture, that's the greater whole, but you are more of a fan of the individual.
I'm all about the individual.
Mhm. So in that individual situation, if you can tell you're making me uncomfortable, sure, you're going to behave differently.
Yeah.
If I'm not, you wouldn't even notice. You wouldn't be like, there's a woman by herself and I'm walking in, so I have to be careful. You're perceiving it based on what? Your gift of perception, your gift of fear.
So
Because
is it,
some men are not even aware of that, by the way. Some men don't know that I walk down the street in Salt Lake City at night, walking a block to my car with my keys in between my hands so I can stab somebody's eyes out.
but
if
guess
I have
what?
to.
I do the exact same thing.
That's so interesting to me.
It's a safety issue, right? So I get people want to feel safe. They want to feel like if something were to happen. But I don't like being automatically assumed that I'm going to do something because I'm a man.
And I don't like being automatically assumed that I'm scared of doing something because I'm not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's the same thing, right? It's like the same overall reaching generalization that neither of us really likes. I don't want people to assume that I'm weak. I mean, look at the faux hog. I don't want people to assume that I'm weak and I can't take care of myself because I'm a woman, or because I'm short, or because I'm a single mom, or because of whatever. Treat me as an individual. But at the same time, if you look at the statistics, which you love,
Yeah.
those statistics, that data backs up what we're talking about. It backs up the fact that men are more often the aggressor. Women are more often the victim. It doesn't mean it's true for every individual situation.
We'll get statistics for the next time that show that men are abused by women almost as much as women are abused by men.
So what's the issue then? Shall we address that next time? Because I have a guess.
Say what your guess is.
They just don't report.
They don't report. Men don't report.
So how do we fix that then? Because the topic that we were discussing is the emotional labor, right? Of men not talking and not connecting emotionally and not being open and vulnerable to other people.
I didn't read your article. I'm not listening to what you're saying.
Precisely. So the gist of it was, I don't need help, I have you as a woman. You be my therapist. I don't need, and not only do I not need other help because I have you, but I just genuinely don't have other friends as a man. That was kind of the gist of it was, I don't make emotional connections with other men. I don't connect with
Okay,
other
so
people.
why are boys/men being raised this way? Because men spend a majority of their time, especially social time at school, with female teachers, with...
What did we just distract from though? Because I felt like I was going somewhere else with that. What were we talking about right before I brought that up?
We were talking about...
Rewind.
I don't know. I'm sorry I interrupted your point.
Yeah, that because I was going a completely different direction. Now I'm like, well, you have a point there. We were talking about how the article itself was about the emotional labor. Oh,
About men.
because you were talking about how men are abused equally as much as women are, and they don't talk about it. So why is that, right? Like, why are we raising...
Oh, sorry. So that was the point I was bringing up.
That was the fuel.
Because men are raised from a very young age, typically with females, and the popular culture, in my opinion, has shifted to train males or tell males that they are going to be more likely to do these things, we need to fear them.
Okay, but that's a completely separate issue.
No,
Then
it's not.
I'm going to be emotional and vulnerable and connect with other human beings.
So think
So you
about
read the article.
think about your kids in school.
Okay.
You have male and female kids in school. Schools are made
High school down to
Down to
elementary. Yes.
Yeah. High school or schools in general are made more towards females.
How so?
How so? Because they're sit down, listen, learn, and males are more.
Whoa!
This is statistically proven.
Okay, well, it's statistically proven so many other things too then. So you're saying that boys are less likely to be able to sit down and focus than girls?
I'm saying that schools are geared more towards the way that females typically learn compared to how males typically learn.
So are we talking about typically, or are we talking about individuals?
Statistically.
So are we talking about statistically?
Well, this is
or
how
are we
it all
talking about
ties together.
individuals?
Why are we this way? Why are we? Because I believe males are, from a very young age, more likely to have ADHD, more likely to be hyperactive, because they can't sit there and concentrate as long. Their bodies are more longing to move and go, where females are more wanting to be social and.
And therein lies
Feeling
the
like-
difference, the inherent difference between male and female. So is that sex-based or is it gender-based?
I don't know what your.
Sex-based, so like what's on your birth certificate,
Okay.
right? Like there's 15 minutes. What you're born with versus how you identify, which is a topic for another time,
I don't know
apparently.
how that really. I mean, that's.
Is it biological or
I
not?
think that's kind of a side.
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
side to
That's a topic for another time. Because you're arguing it's harder for boys to focus in the school setting that we've created than it is for girls. What if there's someone who's transgender who was born male and identifies as female? Where does that fit in?
That's such a out there, like that's a side topic.
It's an
distracting.
individual.
That's true, but I'm not talking about individuals. You wanted me to talk about how did we get to this point, or why did we get to this
We
point?
started this conversation based on what topic? Go back, circle
Oh my
back.
gosh, yes.
What was your topic?
Was individuality, but I was trying to address
Versus-
your topic, and then you kind of cut in and went this way and threw a sidestep
But
before I
the
could
overall
fully
topic
explain
was
what I thought.
Yeah, see, so we're gonna have to circle back. Because the overall topic was the individual versus the whole, right?
Yeah.
And so we can both argue on both sides. So we agree to not disagree to disagree to agree. Because I think we both see it both ways.
Okay.
15 minutes is up.
Yep. What's your 3 topics? What's your topic for?
Are we gonna
today's-
cut here and edit, or are
No,
we doing this all
We're just
together
going
on
straight
video?
through.
So my 3 is, I had it, let me think, because I didn't think of it ahead of time, which I never do. Best date,
Best date.
in 3 words or short phrases.
I would say punctual, eye contact, distractionless.
You're all relationship based. Relationships, so you're relationship based or you're people based. I haven't even thought of mine. That's the funny thing. I have to think of it now. Physical attraction. Exciting. Emotional connection and vulnerability.
Nice. What topic do you want to talk about today?
I had one. Now I have to look at my notes while I get ready to start the timer as well. Especially this time of year. So speaking of this time of year, the topic that I really want to address is this time of year is going to be very key for you. As the that's so much better. Let me open the doors. So if you hear noises, we live in downtown Saratoga. So if you hear traffic or
Sorry.
well,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry for the traffic.
Sorry about it. We have not turned on the AC yet. It is June 1st. We were hoping to make it through April,
Mhm.
and now we've made it through all of May because of do you know, I haven't looked at the data yet, but we are so far ahead on rainfall.
That's great.
We are above for the year, which I'm like, thank you, we need it. Although I keep seeing people who are like, if you're the one praying for moisture, stop it. We have enough.
Which I love. I don't mind the rain.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
It's fun. The foothills are still really green and it's still springy.
Yeah,
Not
it's
full
nice.
summer.
It's nice. So my topic today is going to be relative to summer starting, because that's why I was asking about how we're going to post in what order, because we're trying to record and be ready for other times and stay ahead a little bit, so we're not like, hey, it's time to post again and we don't have anything. But this time of year, as school has just gotten out, one of the issues that's going to come up for you and kids come and go from neighborhoods is neighborhood kids and boundaries. Can you speak to that?
That's our topic today, neighborhood kids and boundaries.
Yep.
I think it ties in a little bit to our first topic. Since I am a male and I don't know really any of the parents in the neighborhood, like I've said hi and waved and we see each other. But you don't live
here.
But I also don't live here.
Them. Yeah.
But during the day, like I know certain moms around the neighborhood and sometimes their husbands. But since I am a single male here in the house, well, single doesn't even matter. Since I am a male here in the house with no other adult here, I don't let any neighborhood kids in the house. Except for one kid that I know the parents really well. And even then, it's texting the mom, hey, just so you know, this kid's here.
Which, honestly, like as a mom, as a woman even, if the other parent texts me, which they often do, hey, just so you know, so-and-so's here, I'm like, great, thank you. Because I don't always know.
Okay.
I don't always know.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, there's kids out playing, and it's a Saturday, and like, go, do your thing, have fun, aside from the consequences. But
which is a fun Utah law that kids don't have to be directly eye supervised.
Yes.
So the kids can
I'm legally protected.
Kids are somewhat allowed to go
protected.
Play in the neighborhood, go to the neighborhood park and play.
We have a park like a block and a half from here, and we are so secluded. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're off of a busy road, but it is basically secluded. I think I had pulled into this neighborhood one time. In the time that I lived in Saratoga and Lehigh for, 3-4 years. Mm-hmm. This one time I pulled into this neighborhood. You don't need to unless you know somebody here.
Yeah. So that's very nice, but also I have the high anxiety of we live by a busy road. Anyone can pull in, grab, and pull right out and be gone.
Yeah.
So for me,
it goes both ways.
It goes both ways. I typically don't let your kids go play at friends' houses unless I know the kids' parents. I never let any kids under 8 go by themselves. They always have to go in groups because if something happens, and it's probably just as easy to kidnap 2 as it is 1,
And let's talk about the reality that most of the time it's someone you know and trust.
Yeah.
I mean, I could get into the history personally and what's going on publicly here in Utah right now.
Just this last week, it's
someone that you know. It's someone that you know and love and trust. And in that case, she hadn't seen him for a long time, but it was her own brother. We're talking about the Logan case.
Uncle?
Yeah, it was an uncle.
Yeah. Oh, I see. It was the mom's.
It was the mom's brother. Yeah.
I think you meant the kid.
No,
So,
it was the mom's brother, and she hadn't seen him for a long time, but still welcomed her into her home because it's her brother, and why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And that's the reality. Like, stranger danger, sure, it's a thing, but it's actually not the statistics. It's just not the data that backs it up. I as a woman, and even as a man, men get assaulted sexually too, but the reality is it's not by a stranger. Somebody doesn't jump out of the bushes while I'm on a jog. You hear those stories every once in a while.
And I think because it doesn't happen so often, when it does happen, it's made big news,
Right, because
so then it
that's
gets a lot of
the
focus.
scary thing.
So I've heard a lot of those stories.
It's a date rape. It's somebody that you agreed to meet up with.
Yeah.
It's your Uber driver.
But back to kids.
Yes.
Going far.
Back to neighborhood kids and boundaries.
So I just flat out tell the kids, I'm sorry, the Bartons aren't allowed to play until, oops, there's your last name. Aren't allowed to play until
like everybody doesn't know.
Pretty much after I've gone. And then you're able to step in and be like, yes, they can play here, they can't play there. Yeah. And for me, during the school year, I only see them for a little bit anyway, when they're not in school. So when I have them for those times, when I have that time with them, I want them here. Now that it's summer, I still keep your kids in a pretty strict schedule. This is what we're doing at this time. But I want them to spend time with each other. Because I know when I leave, they're all going to go to friends' houses, they're all going to go do those things. But during the day, they have these memories of playing in the backyard with the dog, doing these different things.
Yeah, and I think that's a different approach entirely. And honestly, like being the one that lives here, being the one that is the core family, puts me at an advantage really when it comes to relating with the neighbors and the parents and, you know, the kids. But to be fair, there are plenty of kids in the neighborhood that I'm like, oh, that's not happening.
No,
We're not playing.
today.
Yeah, we're not
Forever.
playing with that friend. Guess what? They can't play again. They can't play because I know what an impact friends have in a kid's life. I mean, you don't get that perspective until you're older, for sure. But once you get that perspective, it's like, oh snap! I got to pay attention to who my younger kids are spending time with,
Yeah.
because I can see the difference. Can you speak to the difference that we've seen when, let's say, the 7-year-old has spent time with a certain friend?
Oh man, and I think it's night and day personality. It's who is this pod child? This is not who you are, and it's
How
crazy.
so?
Really a lot of attitude, a lot of snark, and a lot of defiance and
Disrespect.
just disrespect and it's like you just spent 20 minutes with this person. Like, why is your personality shifted so much? Why are you are you mirroring what they're doing, or do you want to impress them? Like, what's the driving motivation?
Can we put in a side note real quick for our co-parenting friends? That when you get the children back from the other parent, I know there are plenty of people that go, okay, here we go. We're gonna have
So
to, we're gonna have to come back from this place that you're at emotionally because of the time that you spent with this other person. You know, and that's not gender specific by any means, to piggyback on our other one. That is not at all. But if you have your kids around somebody who is a negative influence, what do they pick up?
Yeah.
Right? My mom always said, and I'm sure you've heard, if you lie down with the dogs, you're gonna get fleas. I mean, that's just the reality.
So when I was a little kid, before I moved to Arkansas, so 4, 5, 6, I had this really good friend, and our older sisters were friends, and we used to go to their house to play games as a family, and they'd come to our house. So the families were pretty good, pretty close. I think more so the kids than the parents. But they lived like a block and a half away from where we lived. So it was kind of a trek to go over to their house to play. And I remember one time I went to his house and they had to go or leave or something and he couldn't play. So when I walked back, I stopped at this other kid's house and we did like neighborhood get-togethers and functions. So we pretty much all knew each other. Plus, being Utah, we're all pretty much the same religion. So we go to church every Sunday with, you know, the same community, the same neighborhood. And played at his house for a couple hours. And I remember my mom being like panic, guilt-stricken, and going door to door to find out where I was. And when she found me, she took me home and really was just terrified and sat me down and like interrogated me. And being really young, I thought like I was in trouble. What's going on? There was some issues in the family that I didn't know about that she wanted to protect me from. But being a little kid, I had no idea. So I, you know, said I was going one place, walked into danger in another, potential danger into another place, and caused that stress. And so I think for me, knowing that from a young age, having that experience at a young age, puts it in the forefront of my mind. Where are your kids? What are they doing? What's going on?
Yeah, because I think the kids often do that. That's why we reiterate over and over again. You have, if they're not home or they can't play, what do? I come straight back here. Yes, and then you can ask to go somewhere else.
Yes.
But I have to know where you are. I have to know where you are. I have to know what you're doing. It's my job to keep you safe.
And because it causes me a lot of anxiety, I just keep them here with me, and we're all hanging out together. We're all doing these things together. And then it's kind of nice because it gives you a little buffer when you get home. All the friends, they can go play at their friends' houses for a little bit, give you time to settle in or do what you need to do, and then finish up the night together. But yeah, with neighborhood kids, I don't.
It's not worth the risk to have them in the home, which we've talked about from the very beginning. I think from the very beginning, you were like, hey, I'm not comfortable. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
Easy for you, easy for me. Like, I completely understood where you were coming from day one. It wasn't dismissive on my part, like, oh, come on, you're being ridiculous. No, it was very much like, I understand.
Well, I think even I think it's always been that way for me though, because when I lived with my sister and her family and her kids, if the neighborhood kids were coming over, I would either just leave the house completely, or stay by another adult at all times, just so no accusations or anything could ever be said or made.
Because nobody can protect you but you.
Exactly.
And that's why, like, I was super comfortable along those lines. My 14-year-old was babysitting the other day for a new family, which is in North Orem. What is that, 10, 12 miles away, maybe? So not too long of a drive, but enough that it's like...
You can't just get there immediately.
Yeah, and when I, like, comfortably found out that she drove her home, not him, I felt so much better. Because babysitting in the early 90s, it was no big thing for the guy to drive me home. And something could have happened, and or I could have accused him of something happening, right? Like it could have gone either way.
A very real fear that a lot of men now have. Is
As
I'm going to be
as
accused.
they should. And at the same time, as a rape victim, I'm like, why? Why would you say something happened when it didn't? Like, what's going on in your brain? What's going on in your psyche? What's going on in your emotional world to make it seem like that's okay?
But we've had experiences where that's actually happened, or very potentially could have easily happened.
Personally?
Yeah.
What are you referencing? You don't have to go into detail.
We'll talk
Trigger my
after.
memory.
We'll say specific. But experiences with your kids where those things could have, like accusations have been made, whether they're sexual or not, or could have been pursued because a parent didn't like one of your kids. Yes.
Yes, no. We'll talk about it later.
I've got specific examples, but
that's the reality, is that the fear can go both ways, right? So as a man, you can be afraid to drop the babysitter off. As a young girl, you can be afraid that something's going to happen because you're going to be dropped off by the man. And it doesn't mean it doesn't happen with women. I have a friend I went to high school with who a female family member sexually abused her children. And it happens,
yeah.
But it is the rarity, unfortunately. And I don't know why that is.
Because I don't know if it's as reported as frequently.
So you're saying that
much.
if a female sexually assaults children, it's not reported as much as if a male sexually assaults children? Is that your
That is what
stance?
I don't know if believe is a strong word. That would be one of my guesses as to why it's so disproportionate. But I would need to actually research facts and statistics.
Because I understand what you said previously about how men don't report as often as women do. But when we're talking about children, right, these kids were like, I don't know, 4 and 2 at the time, or smaller. They were little. And a female family member, very close, babysat, offered to, right? Like, can you come babysit? And that's honestly why my teenage boy can't babysit. He will never be allowed to. And that's unfortunate.
Get you have a male nanny.
Right? Right? It's ironic. Because nobody I know, I don't know any of my friends that would be like, sure, have your teenage boy come babysit my kids. And that sucks. He's doing yard work.
But as a teenage boy, I babysat people's kids.
How long ago? Because
2000s. Late 90s, early 2000s.
teenage boys babysat 20 years ago. Sorry, it's been 20 years since then.
And you see how that shifted more towards...
Is that because it's reality, or like did we not know before?
Is that more because it's like a jogger jumped
there?
out on the track and so it's going to be sensationalized
And here's the
pushed
thing.
more?
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm a full proponent of the fact that these things happened in the 90s and we didn't know. When did we get the internet? My first email address was probably like 1997, 96, 97, right? Like, the internet was brand new. I certainly wasn't reading stories locally about
And everything on the internet is true.
It's all true. Ask Abraham Lincoln. I saw a quote from him last week. But that's the
I get
thing.
what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Information is more accessible whether it's correct
It
or
is.
not.
Well, and not only that, but does it happen more? Maybe, maybe not.
And maybe because the internet is more accessible and there's more accessibility to some of the depravities of man.
I think they happened
could
back then
increase.
too. I mean, let's talk about the 70s for a second, shall we?
Well, I'm just
Or the
saying
80s. Like,
there's a lot of danger that comes with the internet and with
Oh,
social
sure.
media and things like that.
that's
so,
a topic for another time entirely.
so I could see it. Well, I'm backing up your point of I can see an increase in those things happening because these ideas that weren't previously in people's heads, now they see something and grab onto it and go with it.
And assume that it's a problem, and maybe, because here's what I hear is, back in our day, this wasn't a problem. It's more of a problem now. I'm like, is it really though? I mean,
That's not what I said, though.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm hearing from people, is that things are so much worse than they once were. And I don't agree. I don't agree that things are worse than they used to be.
I think we've gone from a more trusting society to a more fear-based society.
Is that rightfully so? I mean, there's a lot
There's
of
got to be
things
some
that
of the
have
fear.
increased.
And then there's reasons there's reasons I like true crime, because I want to know what's out there.
I mean, let's talk about public shootings, right? That absolutely has increased. The data backs that up. Is the reality that sexual abuse has escalated? I don't think so. I think 100 years ago you swept it under the rug. Absolutely.
I think 20 years ago you swept it under the rug.
50 years ago it was
I think people
questionable.
still today sweep it under the rug
For
frequently.
sure. And it doesn't mean it's any more prevalent now,
Yeah.
or it's any less prevalent. I think we're doing a better job of managing it, honestly. And you've
In
got
some
groups-
aspects, in others I don't.
Yes, of course. But I think it's progress. You know, it's bringing awareness, and the conversation's actually happening. Ask me 20 plus years ago if there was a conversation about rape. Absolutely not. You didn't talk about it. It was very shameful. Now, and we can
But
get
again,
into
that's an
the-
individual thing, because I was talked about rape at a young age. My parents sat me down and this is not acceptable. I mean, I was young when I got my first talk. My parents did it in like groups, series of
You're
this
so
age,
blessed.
this is it.
Like, I wish you could wrap your head around how blessed you are in some respects, because that doesn't happen in most homes. And so, do you know where they learn it? From their friends, from the community,
And the
from
internet.
the intranet now.
Which is why I'm saying I think maybe there has been a rise in those things, because there's greater access to the depravities of men.
So there's a rise in rape because of the depravities that are accessible on the internet?
I think I would say that would be, in my mind, that's a logical connection. Because when I was
I'm
growing
going to
up,
assign you to find that data then.
when I was growing up, I
Here's
didn't know
the
about
thing,
certain
I think
things that now
reporting
your
is
kids
different.
can tell me right away about.
Reporting is different. And that's a great thing, and that's what I'm saying. It happened in the 80s, it happened in the 90s. We didn't know about it, we didn't talk about it, nobody talked about it. Your parents talked about it, great. Good for them as individuals. It was not a common conversation. Now, we can have a conversation about it, and it's okay to have a conversation about it. It's okay to talk about a lot of things that we didn't used to talk about. Mental health is one of them, which is a topic for another day. But that's another one of those things that it's like, is it any different than it was back then? Probably not. I mean, yes, it is in some respects, because we've talked about the iPhone, we've talked about the advancement of smartphones and things like that have changed over the years and escalated.
Well, I think
mental
we're more
issues, but
now is more of an instant gratification than it was previously as well. So I think that has to factor into it. Because before, we didn't walk around being able to communicate or access anything anytime we wanted, right? Now we've trained ourselves and our kids to get instant results, instant gratification.
But back to the point, does that mean there are more serial killers or more serial rapists or more danger than there used to be?
I think so.
I disagree.
I'm not saying that
mean,
it didn't happen. I'm saying that the way that we're raising our kids, it's more potential to get out there.
What do you mean more potential? to
Okay,
get out
so from Ted Bundy's own mouth, right? He was addicted to pornography. He found magazines, he got addicted, and it escalated from there. Is pornography more accessible now than it was when he was a kid? Yeah. I mean, we have handheld devices that anyone can access anything at any time.
So more people are prone to be
So if
serial
you
killers
have
because of porn.
So if you have somebody like Ted Bundy, who, what if he never found those pornography magazines? Would his escalation have been as quickly? What would have happened? It's a lot of what ifs. But now if you have, let's say there were 10 Teds, and 5 of them found the porn, 5 of them didn't at that age. What life trajectories would they have had?
Now you're getting into nature versus nurture, right?
But nature has changed. As you're defending nurture has changed. We're talking
Timer's
about it now.
definitely gone off. It did never start.
Oh, nice. But to your point of nurture has changed, we're having these conversations. I think it's also changed in the nature and how we view things. We get the instant gratification. We get access to whatever we want when we want it.
But I feel like nature versus nurture is really different, because nature to me is like how you're biologically made up, how you're born, right? Like, are you prone
So
to
that's why
have
I'm saying the
different
Ted
things?
Bundy aspect of it. Because serial killers have a trend, right? They typically have things in common. They call it like the trifecta.
Based on the nurture, the way they're raised versus, and the experiences
But
they
is it
have.
nature or nurture? Either way, I think having more accessibility to those things that could be damaging to these young kids who don't understand, because they don't understand. These are things that they're
So
not ready for.
Do we have more serial killers than we once did? I don't know. We don't have the data. We've never claimed to do stuff.
What was
based
our
on
original
data.
point? We went
Neighborhood
from neighborhood
kids.
kids playing to serial killers.
This is our life. It just, it's fine. It all comes back to true crime. But we have to wrap it up, because I don't know how long we've been going, but the timer would have gone
Oh,
off
sure,
by now
it's
for
done.
sure.
So everyone in the comments, if you do comment, tell Janet how I'm correct